In this video, I wanted to discuss tribalism that exists in the sports card community. Is it actually like a healthy community building thing, or is it like kind of click, like push out the other kind of thing? Let's discuss this and what it actually means in practice. What do I mean when I say tribalism? You can see this in society and you can see this in the sports card world, that people tend to group with like-minded people who have a similar, maybe in sports cards, it's related to a similar particular interest. Maybe it's related to vintage collecting. Maybe it's related to flipping high-end football quarterbacks. Maybe it's related to content creation. Maybe it's related to industry things. People kind of gravitate towards these like tribes. Some of it is very human nature. I mean, you're attracted to people who are going to be talking about and thinking about things that are interesting to you, and that you want to become friends with those people, and that you want to have communication with those people. And I think that space is healthy. If you have a YouTube channel that shares your love for vintage baseball cards, and other people who love vintage baseball cards are there too, and you guys are talking about your shared interest, that is a healthy community. That's a community that has a shared interest. They can really enjoy the communication, even if the website or the sports card YouTube channel has a small amount of subscribers. They can contribute to that ongoing conversation from a whole lot of different people who have small channels, and they can communicate with each other, and it has the potential to create a very healthy community kind of dynamic. It's great. But then on the other hand, there's times when the kind of tribal mentality can end up becoming more of a warlike mentality, where you have this clique, this group who has a particular preference in the hobby, who ostracizes or looks down on people who have a different kind of preference in the hobby. Now, of course, if somebody is engaging in the hobby in a way that is illegal or in a way that is unethical, like, you don't want to, oh yes, come on in and be scammy. Of course you don't want to have this, but at the same time, you don't want to support an environment where cliques become against the way that other people are engaging in the hobby that's just based on a personal preference thing. I feel like that kind of attitude, that kind of approach should have less room in the hobby. There should be more of a willingness for people to share and not feel like they're going to be attacked by people who approach it in one way or another. And this is where I think we are in a confusing time in the sports card world right now, because I think the boundary between healthy community and kind of purposeless attacking of the other one community can go back and forth. For example, like the sports card radio can go back and forth between creating discourse that is important for gathering knowledge and information and helping people be aware of things to look out for, scams to look out for, bad actors that might be in the space. It's an important, meaningful thing that's useful knowledge to the hobby in general. But at times it can also step into the bounds of kind of personal attacks on things that are personal preference related, or that are rooted in nothing real, or that are rooted in misperception even. And that's when it can get into this really unhealthy thing. This is why I had another video where we talked about like regulation. And in that video, I came to realize that the idea of regulation I do not like in sports card world, but the idea of certain best practices that people are discussing in order to think about the best ways to engage in the hobby in different spaces. And in that video, I talked about things like breakers, like certain practices that breakers could have to make sure there's no scamming happening, or repackers, that there's a certain expectations for transparency and things like this. But even in content creators and like hobby watchdogs, I think it would be nice to have kind of a set of, not like rules, because everybody can kind of approach it how they want, but a set of best practices, that if you're going to point fingers, that there is real genuine evidence to point that finger. If you're going to, drag somebody through the mud, that there is plenty of evidence, and that what you're doing, that the goal is to result in something. Because sometimes, if the goal is to just share it, to drag somebody's name through the mud, and to do it over and over again, so that, because the more videos you release on YouTube, the more the algorithm likes you, the more viewers you get, the more money you make from YouTube. If the goal is just to create drama for no sense, then that's stupid. But if the goal is to share knowledge, it's wonderful. I feel like there's a best practice that can help to make sure that some of these things, don't go over the line into that area. So this is what I think about when I think about tribalism a little bit, because there is like this tendency in American society in particular, maybe in other societies as well, but I see it more in American society than anywhere else, to kind of like gravitate towards a group that you agree with, and then ostracize the other. Even if their perspective is perfectly valid, it's just a different preference in things. And in American culture nowadays, it's like you gravitate towards one, you butt heads, and nothing comes of it. It's completely purposeless. It begins in words, it ends in words, it's empty. It's nothing except creates cynicism and creates anger, and it does nothing productive at all. So I feel like if we can move out of that and we can move into a sort of healthy tribalism where it's like a group of people, a community of people who have a shared interest and have shared, a topic that they enjoy and that they can build connections with each other within that, then that's a community that is healthy. That's a tribe that can help you, not just in relation to sports cards and learning about sports cards and learning about different things related to sports cards, but can build something that's bigger than sports cards, can build a kind of sense of community that connects people, heart to heart, soul to soul kind of connection with people, which is important, especially, in this day and age where a lot of people are distant. There's not, in American society, there's a lot of places don't have strong senses of community. You probably don't really know your neighbors that well, for most of you. Some of you might, but it's normal in American society nowadays to not have community. And it's weird. It's not normal. It's not normal in a general sense. It's not normal in a historic sense. And it's not normal in like even the evolution of humans. It's always been based on community, going from just like the family unit to kind of tribes, going from tribes to regions to nations to globes. This is kind of always been the structure of humans' evolution. And right now we're at this place where a lot of those foundational things about community are breaking down, and people's approach to community is based on principles that are weird, on us and them kind of mentalities. A lot of it is. So if the tribes in sports cards are based on an us and them mentality, it's only damaging. But if the tribes become supportive groups of friends who are trying to build a community and build true friendship, wonderful. It's great. So I think, I don't know, that's just my thoughts on all of this. I think it's bigger than sports cards, this kind of approach. But I think sports cards is a great avenue to explore kind of different things that are happening in society that you also see in sports cards. Because I also feel in some ways like these bigger things that are happening in sports cards, these bigger things that are happening in the world, you also see in sports cards. But at the world stage, I feel like it's hard to figure out sometimes what to do in order to improve it. But the sports card realm is a little smaller. I think our actions have a little bit more impact. Our discussions have a little bit more impact on the development of the culture of sports cards because it's a smaller space and it's easier to make shifts in this space. So I feel like these are the kinds of conversations that should be had so that, over time the culture of the sports card world becomes less divisive, becomes less us and them, becomes more, welcoming and more, a space to build connection and to build friendship and to build community. So that's kind of my thoughts about all this. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Peace.